Chapter 120, The Turning Tide. The ground trembled as Suru's red robot engaged the towering green crystal giant in a high-speed blur of motion. Suru's machine spun and faded from sight, using its incredible velocity to vanish completely from the giant's view. The crystal giant crashed heavily down onto the earth, looking for its target. Suddenly, Suru's robot materialized out of nowhere, launching a fierce, sweeping kick toward the giant's torso. But the Colossus moved with terrifying reflexes. It leapt straight up into the air, perfectly catching and blocking the red robot's heavy leg mid-strike. Suru's eyes widened behind his controls, stunned and utterly shocked. "What? This can't be!" The green giant didn't give him a second to recover. It unleashed a devastating, bone-shattering punch straight into the center of the red robot's chest. The sheer kinetic force launched the massive machine backward through the air. It crashed violently into a huge boulder, smashing the ancient rock into a million jagged pieces. Suru groaned from the impact, his monitors flashing red warning signs. This is bad. He glanced down at his diagnostics, his heart dropping. "Eh? What?" The electric component in the chest area is damaged. The chest plating of the robot was caved in, a deep, smoking ruin of wires and sparks. Suru looked intensely worried as he watched the green giant slowly, confidently walk toward him through the dust. Meanwhile, back in the main arena, Fuma crawled weakly across the shattered stone, coughing up blood and dust. Ishori looked down at the ninja and casually covered his mouth as he yawned. "You are wasting my time," the conqueror said, his voice dripping with pure boredom. Desperate and bloody, Fuma gritted his teeth and yelled, "Kiaru!" In a flash, Fuma vanished, teleporting across the battlefield as a brilliant orb of light. He reappeared instantly in the blind spot behind Ishori, driving a powerful, full-force kick directly into the back of the Conqueror's neck. But nothing happened. Ishori didn't even flinch. He just stood firmly in place, casually stretching out his arms and rotating his neck as if he were just warming up. Fuma landed, retreating slowly backward in absolute shock. His voice trembled. This can't be." Nearby, Veratros was still being brutally pinned down, pushed back against the crumbling architecture by the merciless torrent of the water monster's blast. Veratros struggled for every single inch, his blue aura flickering. Watching him struggle in the pressure, Kiko's fear suddenly transformed into pure, reckless panic. She couldn't just stand there anymore. She burst into a sprint, running directly toward the danger, screaming, "No-oh!" Veratros, barely able to breathe through the crushing water, saw her through the spray and yelled back in agonizing desperation, "No, Kiko!" At that exact moment, the battlefield reached its absolute breaking point. The green crystal giant accelerated, flying at a terrifying lethal speed straight toward Suru's crippled machine. Suru closed his eyes, whispering quietly to himself, "This is the end." Back in the arena, Ishori looked down his nose at Fuma, raising his hand. "Let's finish this." He turned his cold gaze completely on the ninja and commanded, "Die!" And over where the titans clashed, Vlad the giant finally lost his footing completely. The iron monster overwhelmed his strength, breaking his guard and delivering a massive, crushing blow that sent the giant reeling. Everything looked entirely hopeless. After all this, suddenly, the massive water blast pinning Veratros was instantly cut clean through, severed by a sudden, invisible pressure like a sharp, violent wind blow. The water monster froze, completely stunned for a moment as its attack dissolved into mist. Standing directly in front of Veratros was Raito, wearing his standard mask, his blade drawn. Kiko skidded to a halt, her heart hammering as she stopped running. Veratros, gasping heavily for air, looked up in disbelief, quietly whispering, "You?" Meanwhile, the iron monster was standing over Vlad, its metal fists rising and falling as it punched the giant rapidly. Bang! Suddenly, A massive explosion erupted right on the iron monster's right shoulder, tearing a huge hole straight through its thick armor plating. The beast lost its balance entirely, stumbling away and halting its assault on Vlad. A few yards away, Juro lowered his smoking pistol, a confident, mocking smile spreading across his face.
"I see you aren't that tough at all."
Vlad, completely misunderstanding who Juro was talking to, exploded in a rage as he pushed himself up. "Who is not tough, you little?" Juro chuckled, waving a hand. "I meant the Iron Head is not so tough." Vlad blinked, looking thoroughly embarrassed and completely confused. He stared at the smoking hole in the monster.
What was that?"
Venom of the inland taipan snake and the strongest acid, all packed into one single bullet, Juro explained smoothly. Vlad looked at him in wonder, a new respect in his eyes as he stood fully back up to his feet. Across the field, Ishori was flying forward, his fist clenched to deliver the killing blow to Fuma. But before his punch could land, Ishori was blindsided by a sudden, devastatingly powerful punch to the side of his own face. The force of the strike sent the arrogant conqueror rocketing backward through the air, crashing violently into the arena wall, leaving a massive crater in the stone. Standing over Fuma was none other than Age Taika. Fuma looked up, his voice weak but bitter. Why did you return, coward?" Age didn't look back at him. He kept his eyes locked on the dust cloud where Ishori landed, his voice steady and resolute. "To honor Ogi, Hamura, and Sisha Taika." Fuma stared at him, completely stunned into silence. Farther away, the green crystal giant was still flying through the air, inches away from crushing Suru. But before it could touch the red robot, its trajectory was violently interrupted by a lightning-fast hit from the side. The crystal giant was sent flying backward, tumbling across the dirt until it landed heavily on the ground. 3 yellow robots stood in a defensive formation in front of Suru. They were visibly smaller than the massive red machine Suru controlled, but their engines hummed with incredible speed and agility. Suru blinked, completely caught off guard. "Huh?" Then a wide, triumphant smile broke across his face. "Of course!" The tide was turning. The reinforcements had arrived, and seeing the new opening, every single one of the fighters braced themselves, their eyes burning with a renewed fire. They were ready to start getting serious.